In a small, lively town where everyone seemed to know each other, there lived a shy 16-year-old girl named Mia. She wasn't like the other kids in her school, loud, confident, and always eager to stand out. Instead, Mia preferred staying in the background, unnoticed by most people. Her life was simple but filled with challenges. Her mother, Rosa, worked long hours as the school cleaner, scrubbing floors and emptying trash bins to make ends meet. Despite their modest lifestyle, Mia had something that kept her going: a love for music. Mia's father had passed away when she was just a child, leaving behind an old guitar that became her most treasured possession. It wasn't fancy or expensive. Its surface was scratched and one of the tuning pegs wobbled slightly. But to Mia it was magical. Every evening after finishing her homework, she would sit by the window in their tiny apartment, letting her fingers glide over the strings. Music gave her a way to express feelings she couldn't put into words. Sometimes her songs were happy, and sometimes they carried the weight of sadness, but every note came straight from her heart. At school, however, Mia felt invisible. Most students didn't pay much attention to her unless it was to tease her about being the cleaner's daughter. Some teachers treated her kindly, but others weren't so thoughtful. They often assigned her extra tasks during breaks, asking her to organize supplies or clean up messes left by careless classmates. While Mia didn't complain, she understood how hard her mother worked and wanted to help in any way she could. It still stung when people dismissed her as unimportant. One day, during career week at school, things took an unexpected turn. Career week was supposed to be exciting, giving students a chance to showcase their talents or talk about their future goals. The auditorium buzzed with energy as students prepared for presentations. Paintings hung on walls, science projects stood proudly on tables, and athletes demonstrated their skills outside. But for Mia, this event brought mixed feelings. She didn't have anything flashy to show off, nor did she feel comfortable speaking in front of a crowd. As the day went on, teachers called on different students to share their aspirations. When it was Mia's turn, she hesitated. She didn't want to draw attention to herself, but before she could think of an excuse, Mr. Harris, one of her teachers, made a comment that caught everyone off guard. Smiling casually, he said, "Mia, why don't you play something on your guitar? Maybe we'll discover the next big star." His tone was light, almost playful, and the classroom erupted in laughter. The joke hit Mia harder than anyone realized. Though she tried not to let it show, her cheeks flushed red and her hands clenched tightly around the edge of her desk. She knew Mr. Harris hadn't meant any harm. He was known for his sense of humor. But his words reminded her of how people saw her, as someone who didn't belong in the spotlight. Still, instead of shrinking away, Mia did something surprising. She nodded quietly and said, "Okay." Her response silenced the room instantly. No one expected her to agree, least of all Mr. Harris. He looked momentarily stunned, then quickly recovered, saying, "Well, if you're serious, we'd love to hear you perform." The sarcasm in his voice lingered, but Mia ignored it. Inside, she felt a spark of determination ignite. Maybe this was her chance to prove that she wasn't just the cleaner's daughter. Maybe this was her moment to shine. Over the next few days, whispers spread throughout the school. "Did you hear? Mia's actually going to play the guitar." Some students laughed, convinced it would be a disaster. Others felt curious, wondering what kind of performance Mia could possibly deliver. Even Mia's closest friends seemed skeptical, unsure whether to encourage her or warn her against embarrassing herself. But Mia didn't care what anyone thought. For once, she decided to focus on herself. After school each day, she practiced tirelessly, perfecting a song she had written months ago. It was a deeply personal piece inspired by her struggles and dreams. Each lyric told a story of growing up without a father, of watching her mother work endlessly, and of finding solace in music. By the time the talent show arrived, Mia felt ready, not because she craved approval, but because she wanted to remind herself and maybe others that she mattered. On the morning of the performance, Mia woke up early, her stomach fluttering with nerves. She carefully packed her guitar into its worn case and walked to school, rehearsing the song in her head. As she entered the building, She noticed the usual hustle and bustle of students rushing to class. Nobody paid her any mind, which suited her just fine. She preferred blending into the background until it was time to step into the spotlight. Backstage, as she waited for her turn, Mia's hands trembled slightly. She adjusted the strap of her guitar, took a deep breath, and reminded herself why she was doing this. This wasn't just about proving Mr. Harris wrong or silencing the doubters. It was about showing herself, and perhaps the world, that she was more than what people assumed. And with that thought, she stepped forward, ready to face whatever came next. The day of the talent show arrived, and the school auditorium buzzed with excitement. Students filed in, chatting animatedly about who would perform and what surprises awaited them. Colorful posters decorated the walls, announcing the event as a celebration of talent. Backstage, however, the atmosphere was a mix of nerves and anticipation. Performers adjusted costumes, tuned instruments, and whispered last-minute reminders to themselves. Amidst all this activity stood Mia, clutching her battered guitar tightly. She felt out of place among the confident dancers, polished singers, and tech-savvy magicians preparing their acts. Mia had spent countless hours practicing for this moment, but now that it was here, doubt began to creep in. What if she made a mistake? What if people laughed, not because they were impressed, but because they thought she was ridiculous? She glanced around at the other performers, each one brimming with self-assurance, and wondered if she truly belonged on the same stage. Her fingers trembled slightly as she ran them over the strings of her guitar, checking the tuning one last time. As she waited, snippets of conversations reached her ears. Some students talked excitedly about the dance crew's routine, while others speculated about the drama club's skit. Occasionally, someone would mention Mia's name, though not always kindly. "Did you hear she's actually going through with it?" one voice said, followed by quiet giggles. Another muttered, "I guess we'll see how long she lasts before she freezes up." Each comment stung, but Mia forced herself to focus. She reminded herself why she was doing this. Not for applause or recognition, but to prove to herself that she could rise above the doubts others placed on her. Finally, the MC called her name. "Next up, we have Mia Rodriguez performing an original song on guitar." The announcement was met with scattered applause, polite but unenthusiastic. Taking a deep breath, Mia stepped onto the stage. The bright lights blinded her momentarily, and for a second, she froze. The auditorium seemed enormous, filled with hundreds of faces staring back at her. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared everyone could hear it. But then she remembered something her mother used to say. "Even when life feels heavy, you can still find strength in your hands." With that thought, Mia moved toward the microphone stand and adjusted its height. She slung her guitar over her shoulder and took another calming breath. For a brief moment, the room fell silent, as if the entire audience was holding its collective breath. Then, without hesitation, Mia began to play. Her first chord rang out clearly, cutting through the silence like a bell. It was simple yet powerful, setting the tone for what was to come. Slowly, she added more notes, weaving together a melody that was both haunting and beautiful. As her fingers danced across the strings, she closed her eyes, letting the music guide her. Then softly at first she began to sing. The lyrics poured out of her, raw and honest. She sang about growing up in a world that often overlooked her, about watching her mother work tirelessly to give her a better life, and about finding hope in the smallest things, like the sound of rain against the window or the warmth of sunlight streaming through cracked blinds. Her voice wasn't perfect. It wavered slightly at times, betraying her nervousness. But there was a depth to it, a sincerity that couldn't be faked. Every word carried emotion, every note told a story. At first, the audience seemed unsure how to react. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unsure whether to laugh or listen. But as Mia continued, something remarkable happened. The initial awkwardness melted away, replaced by awe. By the time she reached the chorus, a soaring, heartfelt declaration of resilience, The entire auditorium was captivated. Even those who had doubted her found themselves leaning forward, hanging on every word. Backstage, the other performers stopped what they were doing to watch. One of the dancers peeked through the curtain, whispering, "Wow, I didn't expect that." Another performer nodded silently, clearly moved by the performance. Meanwhile, seated near the front row, Mr. Harris sat frozen in his chair. His earlier joke replayed in his mind, and he cringed inwardly. He hadn't expected Mia to take him seriously, let alone deliver such a stunning performance. Guilt gnawed at him as he watched her pour her soul into the song. When Mia finally strummed the last chord, the room remained eerily silent for a moment. It was as if no one wanted to break the spell she had cast over them. Then, slowly, applause began to ripple through the crowd. At first it was hesitant, almost tentative, but within seconds it grew louder and more enthusiastic until the entire auditorium erupted into thunderous cheers. People clapped wildly, some even standing to give her a standing ovation. For a girl who had once been invisible, Mia was now the center of attention, and she deserved every bit of it. Tears pricked at the corners of Mia's eyes as she looked out at the audience. She hadn't expected such a reaction, but seeing the genuine appreciation on their faces filled her with pride. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, not as the cleaner's daughter, but as someone with a gift worth celebrating. Bowing briefly, she stepped off the stage, her heart still racing from the experience. Behind the curtain, several students approached her, congratulating her on her performance. "That was incredible," one boy exclaimed. "How did you write something so amazing?" A girl added. "You totally crushed it, Mia. Seriously, wow." Their words warmed her, but what touched her most was the look in their eyes, respect mixed with admiration. It was a far cry from the dismissive glances she usually received. As Mia packed up her guitar, she noticed Mr. Harris approaching her. His expression was unreadable, but there was a hint of regret in his eyes. "Mia," he began hesitantly, I need to say something. That was absolutely breathtaking. You have real talent, and I'm sorry if my comment earlier came off as mocking. I never meant to belittle you." For a moment, Mia considered brushing him off. After all, his words had hurt her deeply. But looking at him now, she saw sincerity in his apology. Smiling softly, she replied, "Thank you, Mr. Harris. I know you didn't mean any harm. And honestly, your comment pushed me to do this. So, maybe it wasn't such a bad thing after all." Mr. Harris nodded, relief washing over him. "Well, I'm glad it turned out this way. You've got something special, Mia. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." With that, Mia walked away, feeling lighter than she had in years. She knew this was just the beginning of her journey. But for now, she allowed herself to bask in the glow of her accomplishment. Little did she know, her performance would spark changes far beyond what she imagined, not just in how others saw her, but in how they saw themselves and the world around them. The days following Mia's unforgettable performance at the talent show felt like a whirlwind. Overnight, she went from being virtually invisible to becoming one of the most talked about students in school. The transformation was surreal, and, while it brought her newfound attention, it also tested her ability to stay grounded. For someone who had always preferred staying out of the spotlight, this sudden surge of popularity was both thrilling and overwhelming. Word of her performance spread quickly, not just within the school but throughout the entire town. Teachers who had once overlooked her now greeted her with smiles and nods of approval. Students who barely knew her name suddenly wanted to sit with her during lunch or walk home alongside her after class. Some even asked if they could hear more of her music, which made Mia feel both proud and uneasy. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, and part of her wondered how long this interest would last. Would people still care about her once the excitement wore off? Despite the whirlwind around her, Mia remained focused on what mattered most: her music. She continued practicing every evening, pouring her heart into new songs that reflected her experiences and emotions. Her mother, Rosa, noticed the change in her daughter almost immediately. One evening, as Mia sat by the window strumming her guitar, Rosa paused in the doorway of their small apartment. "You seem different lately," she said softly, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Happier." Mia looked up, surprised by her mother's observation. "I guess I am," she admitted. "It feels good to know that people finally see me for who I am." Rosa smiled warmly, though her eyes held a hint of sadness. She understood better than anyone how hard Mia had worked to get where she was, and how much she had endured along the way. "You've always been special, Mija," Rosa said gently. "Don't let anyone make you forget that." Encouraged by her success, Mia decided to take a bold step. With the help of Mr. Harris, who had become surprisingly supportive, she entered a local music competition designed to showcase young talent. At first, the idea terrified her. Competing against other musicians meant putting herself out there again, risking failure and judgment, but something inside her urged her to try. If she could conquer the stage at school, why not aim higher? Preparing for the competition required even more dedication than usual. Mia spent hours refining her technique, experimenting with new melodies, and rewriting lyrics until they felt perfect. She practiced late into the night, often falling asleep with her guitar resting against her leg. Though exhausting, the process filled her with purpose. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was working toward something bigger than herself. On the day of the competition, nerves threatened to overwhelm her. The venue, a large community center decorated with twinkling lights and colorful banners, felt intimidating compared to the cozy familiarity of her school auditorium. As she waited backstage, she watched other contestants perform, each one incredibly talented. Some played classical pieces with flawless precision. Others delivered energetic pop songs that had the audience clapping along. Watching them, Mia couldn't help but wonder if her own performance would measure up. When her turn finally came, she stepped onto the stage with trembling legs. The spotlight blinded her momentarily, and the sea of faces staring back made her stomach churn. But then she remembered her mother's words. "You've always been special." Taking a deep breath, she adjusted the strap of her guitar and began to play. This time, her song was different from the one she had performed at school. It was faster, livelier, and carried a message of hope and perseverance. She sang about overcoming obstacles, chasing dreams, and finding beauty in unexpected places. Her voice rang out strong and clear, filling the room with emotion. By the time she reached the final chorus, the audience was completely engrossed, swaying to the rhythm and cheering her on. When the last note faded away, the crowd erupted into applause. People stood and clapped enthusiastically, some even whistling and shouting, "Bravo!" Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as she took a bow, overwhelmed by the warmth and support surrounding her. For the second time in her life, she had proven that she belonged on that stage, and this time she did it in front of strangers who didn't know her story, but still connected deeply with her music. After the competition, Mia learned that she had won second place, an incredible achievement considering the level of talent she was up against. Though she hadn't taken the top prize, she felt like a winner. The judges praised her originality, emotional depth, and authenticity, calling her performance a testament to the power of self-expression. Holding her trophy aloft, Mia beamed with pride, knowing that she had accomplished something truly remarkable. Back at school, news of her victory sparked even more admiration. Classmates who had once teased her now approached her with genuine respect. Even teachers who had underestimated her before began treating her differently. They invited her to participate in extracurricular activities, offered guidance on pursuing music professionally, and encouraged her to apply for scholarships. It was as if her performance had opened doors that had previously been closed to her. One of the biggest changes came from Mr. Harris. After witnessing Mia's growth firsthand, he became one of her strongest advocates. He arranged meetings with local musicians and introduced her to contacts in the music industry. More importantly, he apologized again for his earlier joke, this time with heartfelt sincerity. "Mia," he told her during one of their conversations, "you've taught me a valuable lesson. Never underestimate someone based on appearances or assumptions. You're proof that greatness can come from anywhere." Though Mia forgave him, she also recognized the importance of using her platform wisely. She started speaking up more in class, sharing her thoughts and ideas without hesitation. When younger students expressed interest in learning guitar, she offered to teach them during breaks. Slowly but surely, she began breaking down barriers, not just for herself but for others who might feel overlooked or dismissed. Her journey inspired those around her in ways she never anticipated. Other students started pursuing their passions with renewed vigor, encouraged by Mia's example. Teachers reflected on their biases and resolved to treat all students equally, regardless of background or circumstances. Even Rosa noticed a shift in the way people interacted with her at work. Where once she had been treated as invisible, colleagues now greeted her warmly and acknowledged her contributions. Through it all, Mia remained humble. She knew her success wasn't just about talent, it was about resilience, determination, and the unwavering support of her mother. Every time she picked up her guitar, she reminded herself of how far she had come and how much farther she could go. Music had given her a voice when she felt silenced, and now she intended to use that voice to inspire others. As weeks turned into months, Mia's confidence grew. She began performing at local events, from charity fundraisers to community festivals. Each appearance brought new opportunities and connections, further solidifying her reputation as a rising star. Yet despite the growing recognition, she stayed true to her roots. She continued helping her mother with chores, studying hard to maintain good grades, and practicing her craft with the same passion that had driven her from the start. Looking back, Mia realized that her journey had been about more than just proving herself to others. It was about discovering her own worth and refusing to let anyone define her. Through music, she had found a way to transform pain into beauty, doubt into strength, and invisibility into visibility. And though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, she faced them with courage, knowing that she had already overcome so much. Little did she know, her story was only beginning. What started as a single moment of bravery on a school stage would soon lead to opportunities beyond her wildest dreams, and inspire countless others to believe in themselves too. Mia's journey continued to unfold in ways she could never have imagined. Her second-place win at the local music competition opened doors that had once seemed firmly shut. Invitations poured in from various organizations and events eager to feature her as a performer. Local newspapers wrote articles about the girl with the guitar who silenced doubters, and radio stations began playing recordings of her original songs. It was as if the entire town had rallied behind her, celebrating not just her talent but her resilience. Despite the growing recognition, Mia stayed grounded. She knew how quickly fame could fade if she let it consume her or distract her from what truly mattered. Every morning she woke up early to help her mother prepare breakfast before heading to school. After classes, she practiced her music diligently, always striving to improve. Her old guitar, though worn and battered, remained her constant companion, a reminder of where she came from and how far she had come. One day, after returning home from another successful performance at a community event, Mia found an envelope tucked under their apartment door. Curious, she picked it up and brought it inside. The letter inside was from a prestigious performing arts academy located in the city. They had heard about her through one of the judges at the local competition and wanted to invite her to audition for a scholarship program. Reading the words on the page, Mia's hands trembled. This was an opportunity she had only dreamed of, a chance to pursue her passion professionally while receiving top-notch training. Excited yet overwhelmed, Mia shared the news with her mother. Rosa listened quietly, her eyes glistening with pride. "This is your dream, Mija," she said softly. "You've worked so hard for this. We'll find a way to make it happen." But making it happen wasn't going to be easy. The academy was located hours away from their small town, and tuition, even with a partial scholarship, would still be expensive. Additionally, leaving meant stepping into an entirely new world, one filled with uncertainty and challenges. For someone who had spent most of her life blending into the background, the thought of standing out in such a competitive environment felt daunting. Determined not to let fear hold her back, Mia threw herself into preparing for the audition. With Mr. Harris's guidance, she refined her repertoire, selecting pieces that showcased both her technical skill and emotional depth. She practiced tirelessly, often staying up late into the night to perfect every note. Her mother did everything she could to support her, taking extra shifts at work to save money and encouraging Mia whenever self-doubt crept in. On the day of the audition, Mia traveled to the academy with a mix of excitement and nerves. The building itself was breathtaking, a sprawling campus with state-of-the-art facilities, grand concert halls, and lush gardens. As she walked through the corridors lined with portraits of famous alumni, she couldn't help but feel intimidated. These were people who had achieved greatness in the world of music, and now she was here hoping to follow in their footsteps. The audition room was intimate, with just a few panelists seated behind a long table. One by one, candidates performed, each bringing their unique style and flair to the stage. When it was Mia's turn, she took a deep breath and stepped forward. Her heart raced as she adjusted the strap of her guitar and positioned herself under the spotlight. For a moment, she closed her eyes, letting the familiar weight of the instrument anchor her. Then she began to play. The melody flowed effortlessly from her fingers, rich and evocative. Her voice carried the same raw emotion that had captivated audiences before, telling stories of struggle, hope, and triumph. As she sang, she poured her soul into every word, channeling all the experiences that had shaped her into the person she was today. By the time she finished, the room was silent except for the faint echo of her final chord. When the panelists finally spoke, their feedback was overwhelmingly positive. They praised her authenticity, her ability to connect with listeners, and her undeniable potential. Though they noted areas where she could improve technically, they emphasized that her heart and passion set her apart. Leaving the audition, Mia felt a sense of accomplishment regardless of the outcome. She had given it her all, and that was enough. Weeks later, the results arrived in another envelope. This time, Mia opened it surrounded by her family and friends, anticipation crackling in the air. As she read the letter aloud, tears streamed down her face. She had been awarded a full scholarship to attend the academy. Cheers erupted around her as her mother hugged her tightly, overcome with emotion. For Rosa, this moment represented more than just her daughter's success. It was proof that their sacrifices had been worth it. With the decision made, Mia began preparing for the next chapter of her life. Saying goodbye to her hometown wasn't easy. On her last day of school, classmates gathered to wish her well, many expressing admiration for her courage and determination. Even teachers who had once underestimated her offered heartfelt congratulations. Mr. Harris, in particular, pulled her aside to share some parting advice. "Remember why you started," he told her. "No matter where you go or what you achieve, stay true to yourself. That's what makes your music special." As Mia boarded the bus to the city, clutching her guitar and a suitcase packed with essentials, she reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. From being labeled the cleaner's daughter to becoming a scholarship recipient at a renowned academy, her journey had been anything but ordinary. Yet through it all, she had learned valuable lessons about perseverance, self-belief, and the importance of staying humble. At the academy, Mia faced new challenges. Surrounded by peers who were equally talented, if not more so, she sometimes questioned whether she truly belonged. There were moments when self-doubt threatened to creep back in, especially during rigorous practice sessions or critiques from instructors. But each time, she reminded herself of the girl who had stood on her school stage, determined to prove herself despite the odds. That memory fueled her drive to keep pushing forward. Her professors quickly recognized her unique voice and encouraged her to embrace it fully. "Your strength lies in your storytelling," one instructor told her during a private lesson. "Don't try to be anyone else. Be unapologetically you." Those words resonated deeply with Mia, reinforcing the idea that her authenticity was her greatest asset. Outside of academics, Mia seized opportunities to perform at various venues across the city. Each gig brought new fans and admirers, further solidifying her reputation as a rising star. Yet despite the growing accolades, she remained connected to her roots. Whenever possible, She returned home to visit her mother, sharing updates about her life and thanking Rosa for her unwavering support. Back in her hometown, Mia's story inspired others to chase their dreams. Students at her former school formed music clubs, using her example as motivation to pursue their passions. Teachers implemented programs aimed at nurturing creativity and ensuring no student felt overlooked again. Even Rosa noticed a change in how people treated her at work, with colleagues showing greater respect and appreciation for her role. Through it all, Mia carried a profound sense of gratitude. She understood that her journey hadn't been hers alone. It had been shaped by the love of her mother, the encouragement of mentors like Mr. Harris, and the resilience she had cultivated over years of hardship. Music had given her a voice when she felt invisible, and now she intended to use that voice to uplift others. As she looked ahead to the future, Mia felt a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them head-on, armed with the lessons she had learned and the belief that she could overcome anything. For Mia Rodriguez, the girl who had once been dismissed as insignificant, the sky was no longer the limit. It was just the beginning. Years passed, and Mia's journey took her further than she ever imagined. The once shy girl who had stood nervously on her school stage was now a rising star in the music industry. Her time at the Performing Arts Academy had transformed her, not only as a musician but also as a person. She honed her craft under the guidance of world-class instructors, learned to collaborate with other artists, and discovered new dimensions of her creativity. Yet even amid the whirlwind of success, Mia never lost sight of where she came from or the people who had supported her along the way. At the academy, Mia faced challenges that tested her resilience. Some classmates were fiercely competitive, often comparing themselves to one another and striving for perfection. There were days when Mia doubted whether she belonged among such talented peers. During late-night practice sessions, she would sit alone in the rehearsal room, strumming her guitar and wondering if she was good enough. But each time those doubts surfaced, she reminded herself of the promise she had made to her younger self. You are more than what others think of you. Her professors noticed this quiet determination and encouraged her to embrace her individuality. Mia, one of them said during a feedback session, you don't need to sound like anyone else. Your voice, both literal and metaphorical, is unique. That's your power. Those words stayed with her, becoming a mantra she repeated whenever self-doubt crept in. Slowly but surely, Mia began to trust her instincts and let her true self shine through her music. By the time she graduated, Mia had developed a distinctive style that blended heartfelt lyrics with soulful melodies. Her performances captivated audiences, earning her invitations to prestigious events and collaborations with established musicians. Yet despite the growing recognition, Mia remained humble. She continued living modestly, saving money to send home to her mother and refusing to indulge in the trappings of fame. To her, success wasn't about wealth or status. It was about using her platform to inspire others. One evening, after a sold-out concert in the city, Mia received an unexpected invitation. A local organization in her hometown was hosting a benefit concert to raise funds for underprivileged youth, and they wanted her to headline the event. Touched by the request, Mia immediately agreed. For her, it was an opportunity to give back to the community that had shaped her and to show young people that their dreams were worth pursuing. The night of the concert arrived, and Mia returned to her hometown for the first time in months. As she stepped off the bus, she was greeted by familiar sights: the bustling main street, the park where she used to sit and write songs, and the school building where her journey had begun. Walking through the town felt surreal, as if she were stepping back in time. People waved and called out her name, their faces lighting up with pride. It was clear that her success had left a lasting impact on the community. The benefit concert was held in the same auditorium where Mia had first performed during Career Week. Stepping onto the stage brought a flood of memories. She remembered the nervousness, the laughter from the audience, and the moment when everything changed. Now, years later, she stood before a packed crowd ready to share her story. As she began to play, the room fell silent. Her opening song was upbeat and energetic, designed to lift spirits and set the tone for the evening. But when she transitioned into a slower, more reflective piece, the mood shifted. This was a song she had written specifically for the occasion, tribute to her mother, her teachers, and everyone who had believed in her when she struggled to believe in herself. Each lyric carried weight, drawing tears from many in the audience. When she reached the final verse, Mia paused and looked out at the sea of faces. "This is for all of you," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "For every person who has ever been told they don't belong, who has ever felt invisible, or who has ever doubted their worth. This is proof that your beginnings don't define your endings." The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing through the auditorium long after the last note faded. Parents hugged their children, teachers wiped away tears, and students whispered excitedly about how inspiring Mia's performance had been. For many, it was a reminder that no dream was too big and no obstacle insurmountable. After the concert, Mia spent hours signing autographs and taking photos with fans. One young girl approached her shyly, clutching a notebook filled with scribbled lyrics. "I want to be a singer too," she confessed, her cheeks flushing red, "but I'm scared people will laugh at me." Mia knelt down so they were eye level. "Do you know why I started playing guitar?" she asked gently. The girl shook her head. "Because it made me happy. And yes, some people laughed at first. But guess what? When I played my heart out, they stopped laughing and started listening. So don't worry about what others think. Just follow your heart and let your music speak for itself." The girl nodded, her eyes shining with newfound determination. Moments like these reminded Mia why she had chosen this path, not for fame or fortune, but to make a difference in the lives of others. Backstage, Mia found her mother waiting for her, a proud smile on her face. Rosa hugged her tightly, whispering, "I'm so proud of you, Mija. You've come so far." Mia hugged her back, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Without her mother's sacrifices and unwavering support, none of this would have been possible. As the evening drew to a close, Mia reflected on how much had changed since her school days. Once labeled the cleaner's daughter, she was now celebrated as a role model and an inspiration. Yet she knew that her journey wasn't just about personal achievement, it was about creating opportunities for others. Inspired by the benefit, concert success, she decided to establish a scholarship fund for aspiring musicians from low-income families. Named after her late father, the fund aimed to provide resources and mentorship to young talents who might otherwise lack access to formal training. Word of Mia's initiative spread quickly, attracting donations and partnerships from organizations eager to support her cause. Local schools introduced music programs inspired by her story, ensuring that future generations would have the chance to explore their passions without fear of judgment. Even Mr. Harris, who had initially underestimated her, became actively involved, helping coordinate workshops and mentoring students. Through it all, Mia remained deeply connected to her roots. Though her life had changed dramatically, she stayed grounded by visiting her hometown regularly and spending time with her mother. Together they celebrated milestones large and small, cherishing the bond that had carried them through difficult times. Rosa, too, experienced a transformation. Encouraged by Mia's success, she pursued courses in administration and eventually secured a higher-paying job within the school district. Their shared triumphs proved that resilience could lead to brighter futures, not just for individuals, but for entire families. Looking ahead, Mia envisioned a world where everyone had the opportunity to pursue their dreams, regardless of background or circumstances. She continued writing and performing music, using her platform to amplify voices that might otherwise go unheard. Her songs became anthems of hope, resilience, and empowerment, resonating with listeners around the globe. Yet even as her career soared to new heights, Mia never forgot the lessons she had learned along the way. Every chord she played, every lyric she sang, carried echoes of her past, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the moments of triumph. These experiences shaped her into the person she was today, a beacon of possibility, proving that greatness can emerge from the most unlikely, places. And so Mia's journey continued, not as a solo endeavor but as part of something larger than herself. Through her music and her actions, she inspired countless others to believe in their potential and strive for better tomorrows. For Mia Rodriguez, the girl who had once been dismissed as insignificant, the future was limitless. Her story served as a testament to the power of perseverance, authenticity, and the belief that no dream is too big if you're willing to fight for it. Years turned into a decade, and Mia's name became synonymous with hope, resilience, and the transformative power of music. What had started as a shy girl strumming an old guitar in a tiny apartment had blossomed into a global phenomenon. Her songs, deeply personal yet universally relatable, resonated with millions of listeners across continents. From intimate acoustic performances to sold-out concerts in massive arenas, Mia's journey was nothing short of extraordinary. Yet, despite her meteoric rise, she remained grounded, always remembering the lessons she had learned growing up. Mia's impact extended far beyond her music. Inspired by the struggles she had faced as a child, she dedicated herself to creating opportunities for others who might feel invisible or dismissed. The scholarship fund she established in her father's name grew into a nationwide initiative, supporting thousands of young musicians from underserved communities. Through workshops, mentorship programs, and grants, Mia ensured that talent wasn't wasted due to lack of resources. She often visited schools and community centers, sharing her story and encouraging students to pursue their passions fearlessly. One such visit took her back to her hometown, a place that still held a special spot in her heart. This time, however, it wasn't just nostalgia driving her return. A local high school had decided to honor her by naming its newly built auditorium the Mia Rodriguez Performing Arts Center. Standing on the stage where she had once felt so vulnerable, Mia couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed. The same room that had witnessed her first hesitant steps into the spotlight now bore her name, a testament to the power of perseverance. As she delivered an emotional speech during the dedication ceremony, Mia reflected on the twists and turns of her journey. "When I stood here years ago," she began, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "I didn't know if anyone would listen. I didn't even know if I believed in myself. But I did something that day. I showed up. And sometimes, showing up is half the battle." Her words struck a chord with everyone present, students, teachers, parents, and community members alike. Many nodded in agreement while others wiped away tears. For them, Mia wasn't just a successful musician. She was proof that dreams could come true if you were willing to fight for them. After the ceremony, dozens of students approached her, eager to share their own aspirations. Some wanted to be singers, others dreamed of becoming writers, dancers, or engineers. Regardless of their goals, Mia listened intently, offering advice and encouragement. "Whatever your dream is," she told them, "don't let anyone tell you it's too big or too small. You are capable of more than you think." Among the crowd was Mr. Harris, now retired but still active in mentoring young people. Seeing him brought back memories of that fateful day when his offhand comment had unintentionally set Mia on this path. Over the years, their relationship had evolved from one of regret and apology to mutual respect and collaboration. Mr. Harris had played a key role in expanding the scholarship program, ensuring it reached as many students as possible. As he approached Mia after the event, she greeted him warmly, hugging him like an old friend. "You've done incredible things, Mia," Mr. Harris said, his voice thick with pride. "I can't believe I almost missed seeing your potential all those years ago." Mia smiled softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "And I can't believe how much you've done to help others since then," she replied. "You've made amends in ways that matter most, not just to me, but to so many kids who needed someone to believe in them." Their conversation shifted to plans for the future. Together, they discussed ideas for expanding the scholarship program internationally, reaching children in remote areas who lacked access to education and artistic outlets. It was clear that both Mia and Mr. Harris saw this work as a lifelong mission, a way to leave behind a legacy of opportunity and empowerment. Back in the city, Mia continued balancing her career with her philanthropic efforts. Her latest album, titled Roots and Wings, explored themes of identity, belonging, and the courage to chase your dreams. Critics hailed it as her most authentic work yet, praising its raw honesty and emotional depth. Fans connected deeply with tracks like Invisible No More and Chasing Light, which spoke directly to the struggles of overcoming self-doubt and societal expectations. The album debuted at #1 on charts worldwide, cementing Mia's status as not just a musician but a cultural icon. Yet fame hadn't changed her core values. Mia lived simply, prioritizing meaningful connections over material wealth. She spent weekends volunteering at shelters, teaching music to homeless youth, and advocating for policies that supported underprivileged communities. Her advocacy earned her recognition from humanitarian organizations, and she was invited to speak at conferences about the importance of arts education and equal opportunities. One particularly memorable moment came when Mia received an award for her contributions to social change. Accepting the honor, she used her platform to highlight the stories of those who inspired her daily. "This isn't just my story," she emphasized. "It belongs to every person who has ever been told they don't belong, who has ever been underestimated, or who has ever dared to dream bigger than the world thought possible. My success is theirs because none of us achieve anything alone." Her speech went viral, sparking conversations about representation, resilience, and the need for systemic change. Schools incorporated her message into their curricula, using her story as a case study in overcoming adversity. Teachers reported seeing a noticeable shift in their students' attitudes, more confidence, more creativity, and a renewed belief in their ability to shape their destinies. At home, Rosa watched her daughter's achievements with quiet pride. Though Mia traveled constantly, she always found time to call her mother, sharing updates and seeking advice. Their bond remained unshakable, a source of strength for both women. Rosa, too, had grown alongside Mia. Once content with her role as a school cleaner, she now worked as an administrator, overseeing programs designed to support low-income families. Together, mother and daughter proved that resilience wasn't just inherited, it was cultivated through love, sacrifice, and determination. As Mia looked toward the future, she envisioned even greater possibilities. Plans were underway for a documentary chronicling her journey, aimed at inspiring audiences globally. Collaborations with other artists promised fresh musical projects, blending genres and cultures to create something entirely new. And her philanthropic work continued to expand, reaching corners of the world she had never imagined touching. But perhaps the most profound aspect of Mia's legacy was the ripple effect it created. Young musicians inspired by her story began making waves in their own right, breaking barriers and challenging stereotypes. Teachers adopted inclusive practices, ensuring no student felt overlooked again. Entire communities rallied around initiatives, sparked by her example, proving that one person's courage could ignite widespread change. On a quiet evening years later, Mia returned to her hometown once more. Walking through familiar streets, she paused outside the Performing Arts Center that bore her name. Inside, laughter and music spilled into the night, the sounds of young people discovering their voices, finding their place in the world. Smiling to herself, Mia realized that her journey wasn't about individual success. It was about creating a chain reaction of hope and possibility. She thought back to the shy 16-year-old girl who had once doubted herself, wondering what life might hold. That girl had grown into a woman who refused to let circumstances define her. Through every challenge, every triumph, and every note she played, Mia had proven that resilience could transform invisibility into visibility, silence into song, and dreams into reality. And as she walked away, guitar slung over her shoulder, Mia knew one thing for certain. Her story wasn't just hers. It belonged to anyone brave enough to believe in themselves.